Hi, my name is Julia. I covered a few topics in chapter 3 of the Ramachandran book, including movement, learned paralysis, and the phantom limb experience, and everything that just kind of goes along with that, pain and somatic sensations. So, first, I wanted to give a definition of proprioception, which is the brain's ability to sense the position of your body in space, also relative to other parts of your body. But a key aspect of this is that you still need visual information about the environment to help with this proprioceptive ability. Context cues and the environment helps with this. So vision is a key thing to keep in mind throughout this chapter. Parallel to this was a concept defined by Ramachandran in the 3rd chapter called body image, which is referred to as the internally constructed image and memory of one's body in space and time. So this is like the sense of knowing our limbs and their position and movements when we close our eyes. So again, there's that element of vision that's really important. So when you send a command to initiate motion, there's a lot of different things that are going on in the motor cortex and supplementary motor area, the spinal cord and muscles, etc. But simultaneously, the same set of information is also being passed to the parietal lobe and the cerebellum. And these two structures act as a thermostat in servo loop, is what Ramachandran kind of described it as, which is comparing, their function is to compare your intended action to your actual performance, and then adjusting in response as you go. So that's why it's called a thermostat loop. But in a phantom limb situation, again, let's say your frontal lobe initiates this decision to move the arm, and the command is monitored by the parietal lobe, and it's felt and perceived as movement. But visual feedback, as well as the proprioceptive signals, cannot confirm this movement because there is no movement occurring. It's a phantom limb. There's no physical movement of a limb occurring. So this is where a feedback loop comes into play. An individual tries to move, tries to initiate movement. Visual feedback suggests there's no movement actually occurring. And this back and forth circular process, or I would say cyclical process, facilitates learning. And this, therefore, is referred to as learned paralysis with people with phantom limbs. So how can a phantom limb be paralyzed? That's kind of a contradictory idea. One explanation is that the limb can be paralyzed before amputation. So the sense of it being paralyzed prior to amputation is carried on after amputation as well. So that person is now stuck with a revised body image, that term again, of a paralyzed limb that no longer physically exists. And this is the paralyzed phantom. So a big concept is all of what all of this leads to is the concept that if you can learn paralysis, could you not then also unlearn it? And this is where a device or contraption designed by Ramachandran comes into place, called the mirror, which is called the mirror box. And it's almost like a shoebox contraption in which you can stick both of your limbs on either side, and it's separated down the middle by a mirror. And the individual that has a phantom limb would use their functioning side of their arm or limb, it could be leg as well, to do some sort of motion. Then it's reflected in the surface of the mirror in a sort of illusion that makes the individual believe, oh, that movement is occurring on the opposite side of the body as well, which is the side that is afflicted by the phantom limb as well as the phantom limb paralysis. So after repeated use and practice of this, and sometimes in most cases actually instantaneously, it occurs that the person experiencing phantom limb paralysis feels movement, and they feel they can actually move their phantom limb now. In other cases, they feel their limb disappears and they no longer are afflicted by phantom limb. So this ties into a lot of different areas, which helps with phantom limb pain, which is a real affliction that these people are experiencing. And it also ties into this treatment for learned paralysis can also tie into individuals in other spectrums as well, such as stroke victims, people with focal dystonia, which is also known as writer's cramp, which in those cases the individual can even scratch their nose or do any sort of movement, but they're incapable of writing. Mirror therapy can also be applied to ideomotor apraxia patients, which that is the inability to perform skilled movements on command. So they can do something sort of without thinking, but if somebody directs you and commands you to do whatever, you can't do it. So mirror therapy can also be applied to Parkinson's disease patients. That's a really mind-blowing area of application. And there's other things that I will elaborate on in the presentation and in the PowerPoint as well. So thanks for watching. See you later.